What if true happiness wasn't found in possessions or status, but in the way you think? Have you ever carried a grudge so long that it felt heavier than the pain that caused it? And could the simple act of forgiveness be the secret doorway to inner peace? As the Buddha wisely said, happiness does not depend on what you have or who you are. It solely relies on what you think. Let that sink in. Have you ever felt like life's challenges are just too overwhelming to bear? Maybe you've been caught in a storm of emotions, confused, hurt, or just plain exhausted. If so, you're not alone. And today, we'll walk together through a gentle path of Buddhist wisdom that can help ease those burdens. Now don't worry, this isn't just for those who practice Buddhism. These insights are universal. Whether you're dealing with stress, grief, or uncertainty, these teachings offer a light to guide you through dark times. We'll explore 15 simple yet powerful ideas inspired by Buddhism. These aren't strict doctrines or complex rituals. They're life-affirming principles, little shifts in mindset and practice that can help us live with more balance, clarity, and joy. Let's begin with the first and perhaps most transformative of them all: forgiveness. In Buddhism, forgiveness isn't just a kind gesture. It's a deep, liberating practice rooted in compassion and understanding. At its heart, it reflects the truth of interconnectedness and the reality of suffering. Forgiveness isn't about excusing harmful actions or pretending they didn't hurt. It's about releasing the emotional grip of anger, pain, and resentment. The Buddha compared holding on to anger to clutching a burning coal with the intent of hurling it at someone else, yet you're the one who ends up burned. To forgive, in the Buddhist sense, is to free yourself from that suffering. It's a conscious decision to stop reliving the past hurt, to stop feeding the fire inside. One practice that beautifully embodies this teaching is forgiveness meditation, often called metta, or loving-kindness meditation. During this quiet reflection, you gently offer wishes of peace and compassion, not only to others, even those who hurt you, but also to yourself. Through repetition and sincere intention, your heart begins to soften, and the walls built by pain start to crumble. Forgiveness in Buddhism also closely ties into the law of karma, the understanding that every action we take creates ripple effects. Clinging to resentment feeds negative karma, but choosing forgiveness allows us to break that cycle, opening the door to peace and emotional liberation. That said, forgiveness isn't always easy. When betrayal runs deep or wounds are fresh, it can feel impossible. But Buddhism teaches us that forgiveness is a journey, a slow unfolding of the heart that requires patience, compassion, and honest self-reflection. As we let go of anger and learn to forgive, something subtle but powerful begins to shift within us. Forgiveness isn't just a single act. It's a journey that unfolds with time, understanding, and compassion. The practice of forgiveness in Buddhism is ultimately a profound act of self-liberation. When we release the tight grip of resentment and embrace forgiveness with an open heart, we free ourselves from the invisible chains of the past. This act of letting go opens the doorway to a deeper well of love, compassion, and joy. The Buddha beautifully captured this truth when he said, "Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule." It is through the power of love and understanding that we dissolve the roots of suffering and step into a more harmonious life. By forgiving others and ourselves, we break free from the endless cycle of emotional reactivity. and begin to cultivate a life grounded in peace. And now, let's explore the next teaching. Live with intention. In the Buddhist path, living with intention means living on purpose. It's about choosing our thoughts, words, and actions deliberately, guided not by habit or pressure, but by our values and aspirations. Instead of floating through life, swayed by external circumstances, we steer the course from within. At the heart of this practice lies the Buddhist awareness of impermanence. Life is fragile, fleeting, and uncertain. That's why every moment is precious and every choice meaningful. To live with intention is first to clarify what truly matters to us. What do we value? What brings us a sense of meaning? What kind of life do we hope to create? Not someday, but today. When we take time to reflect on these questions, we begin to align our decisions with our deeper purpose. And in doing so, we experience greater fulfillment and direction. No longer reacting to life passively, we become active participants in shaping it. Setting intentional goals is part of this path. These goals don't have to be grand or flashy, but they should resonate with our values. Whether it's nurturing a relationship, improving our health, or pursuing personal growth, the key is to walk in the direction that reflects who we truly are. Mindfulness plays a central role here. It teaches us to be present in each moment, to observe our thoughts and actions with clarity and care. When we're mindful, we don't just move through the day, we engage with it. We become aware of whether our choices support or contradict our deeper intentions. Living intentionally also means taking full responsibility for our lives. Instead of blaming others or waiting for things to change on their own, we step into ownership. This mindset of accountability and resilience is empowering. It reminds us that we're not victims of fate, but creators of our path. And finally, a truly intentional life embraces gratitude. Rather than being consumed by regrets of the past or longings for the future, we learn to savor the richness of now. Every breath, every moment becomes a chance to live more deeply and consciously. When we live with clear intention, we begin to notice the richness in each passing moment, the blessings we once overlooked, the beauty hidden in the everyday. To live with intention in the Buddhist sense means to live with clarity, awareness, and authenticity. It's a conscious choice to align our thoughts, words, and actions with our deepest values and heartfelt aspirations. It's about being fully present, embracing each moment, not with distraction or regret, but with gratitude and purpose. This way of living brings us into greater harmony with our true selves. It grounds us, nourishes us, and reminds us that we are not drifting, we are choosing. And every small, mindful choice becomes a step toward a more meaningful life. Now, let's continue to the third essential teaching: cultivate generosity. In Buddhism, generosity, known as dana, is not just a noble act, it is a foundational virtue. It springs from compassion and the recognition that we are all deeply interconnected. True generosity is the act of giving freely, without seeking anything in return. It's a practice that purifies the mind, opens the heart, and allows joy to flow through us. But generosity in Buddhism is far more than giving money or material things. It includes giving your time, your presence, your energy, your talents, even your understanding and forgiveness. Sometimes, the most powerful form of generosity is simply listening deeply to someone who is hurting or offering a warm smile when someone feels unseen. One of the core teachings of the Buddha was to transcend selfishness and cultivate a generous spirit. The Buddha himself embodied this, offering his wisdom, his time, and his compassion to all, regardless of status or belief. He taught that generosity brings happiness at every stage. When we plan to give, when we give, and even when we reflect upon that giving. To practice generosity is to nurture a mindset of abundance. It means noticing opportunities, big or small, to uplift others. It might be donating to someone in need, volunteering at a local shelter, or simply helping a neighbor carry groceries. The size of the act matters less than the sincerity behind it. Even more, the path of generosity helps us loosen the grip of attachment. We let go of the constant craving for more, and we begin to realize we already have enough. And from that place of inner contentment, giving becomes natural, even joyful. One especially meaningful practice in Buddhism is the act of dana, the offering of resources, time, or support to the spiritual community. It is seen not only as an act of giving, but also as a way to purify the mind and deepen one's connection with the teachings. Generosity also grows stronger when it is paired with gratitude. When we recognize the countless acts of generosity we've received from friends, family, strangers, it softens us, it humbles us, and it inspires us to continue that flow of kindness. Ultimately, cultivating generosity is about growing a heart that is open, warm, and deeply compassionate. A heart that sees giving not as a loss, but as a powerful expression of love. But how do we stay present enough to notice these moments for generosity? How do we remain aware, calm, and kind, especially when life gets noisy and overwhelming? As we saw with generosity, giving to others also nourishes the giver, awakening joy, compassion, and a sense of freedom. But to give with clarity and wisdom, we must first understand ourselves. And that's where the next practice comes in. Number 4, practice self-reflection. Self-reflection is a core pillar of the Buddhist path. It is an inner journey, one that leads to deeper insight, personal transformation, and ultimately, freedom from suffering. At its essence, self-reflection means turning our attention inward with honesty, mindfulness, and an open heart. In Buddhism, self-reflection is rooted in the awareness that everything is impermanent and interconnected. When we begin to observe the flow of our thoughts, emotions, and sensations without clinging or resistance, we start to realize something profound. Everything we experience is constantly changing, shaped by countless conditions. This understanding helps loosen the tight grip of attachment and aversion, the very sources of our suffering. Instead of reacting blindly to every emotion or thought, we begin to observe them like clouds drifting across the sky, temporary, passing, and not who we truly are. The practice of self-reflection requires mindfulness, the art of being fully present with what's happening inside us. By cultivating this awareness without judgment, we can witness the rising and falling of our inner world with greater clarity. One of the great benefits of self-reflection is the growth of self-awareness. We start to recognize our habitual reactions, emotional patterns, and unwholesome tendencies that might be keeping us stuck. With this awareness, we gain the power to choose differently, to replace anger with patience, confusion with clarity, and fear with understanding. Buddhist self-reflection also invites us to examine our actions and intentions with deep sincerity. We pause to consider, are my actions rooted in kindness? Do my choices bring harm or healing to myself and others? By reflecting on the ethical weight of our behavior, we cultivate integrity and bring more mindfulness into our everyday relationships. Another powerful aspect of Buddhist self-reflection is questioning the very idea of the self. Who are we, really? Are we a fixed identity or a constantly shifting stream of thoughts and experiences? Through mindful inquiry, we come to see that the self is not a solid, permanent thing. It is a mental construct, empty of any inherent, unchanging essence. This insight can be deeply liberating. It dissolves the ego-centered lens through which we often view the world and helps us connect more deeply with others, realizing that we're all part of a vast, interconnected whole. A key tool for deepening self-reflection is meditation. Meditation offers the quiet space we need to listen inwardly, to watch the movements of the mind without interference. With regular practice, we sharpen our skills of observation and develop deeper wisdom about ourselves and the nature of reality. In truth, self-reflection is not just a technique, it's a powerful transformation. It changes the way we relate to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us. But even as we grow more self-aware, life can still stir up storms within us. Worry, regret, restlessness. So how can we meet those inner waves with calm and care? We'll explore the fifth practice, embracing mindfulness as a way of being and how it helps us stay grounded amid the chaos. As we turn inward through self-reflection, we begin to cultivate clarity, peace, and freedom from the patterns that bind us. But to carry this awareness into daily life, especially when faced with chaos or joy, we need something more: equanimity. Number 5. Foster equanimity. Equanimity is one of the most profound and transformative concepts in Buddhism. It refers to a state of inner balance, a calm, centered presence that remains steady in the face of both life's joys and sorrows. When we cultivate equanimity, we develop the ability to stay grounded without being swept away by the emotional highs and lows of everyday life. Whether we're experiencing success or failure, pleasure or pain, equanimity helps us respond rather than react. It is the spacious calmness of heart and mind that allows us to stand firm in the middle of a storm, not with resistance, but with peaceful acceptance. At its heart, equanimity is rooted in one of Buddhism's core truths: impermanence. Everything changes, no joy lasts forever, and no sorrow remains unchanged. When we truly grasp this, we begin to loosen our attachment to chasing what feels good and avoiding what feels bad. We stop clinging, we stop resisting, and in doing so, we suffer less. Equanimity invites us to accept the flow of life with an open and balanced heart. It doesn't mean we become cold or indifferent. It means we see clearly, feel deeply, but remain anchored. This calm clarity helps us move through life's challenges with wisdom instead of being pushed around by our impulses or fears. One of the greatest gifts of equanimity is inner peace. When we cultivate this steady presence, we're better equipped to stay centered even when the world around us feels chaotic. Imagine standing in the eye of a hurricane, not because you're numb, but because you've trained your mind to remain still while everything spins around you. Mindfulness plays a crucial role in developing equanimity. When we practice being present, fully aware of our thoughts, emotions, and sensations, we begin to notice how everything arises and passes away. We don't have to get tangled in every thought. We don't have to react to every feeling. Instead, we gain space, the space to pause, to breathe, and to choose a wiser response. Another essential element of equanimity is non-attachment. This doesn't mean we stop caring, Rather, it means we stop grasping. We let go of needing things to go a certain way. We learn to meet life as it is, not as we wish it to be. In doing so, we break free from the exhausting tug-of-war between desire and aversion, and in that freedom, we find peace. Equanimity also flourishes when we embrace compassion and interconnectedness. When we remember that everyone suffers, that every being is navigating their own joys and challenges, our hearts soften. We develop compassion, not from pity, but from deep understanding. This insight helps dissolve the illusion of separateness and brings us into deeper harmony with the world. A powerful way to cultivate equanimity is through meditation. In stillness, we learn to observe without grasping, to remain present without judgment. Over time, regular meditation nurtures that calm inner space where equanimity naturally takes root, even when life feels uncertain or difficult. But equanimity doesn't mean detachment from the world. It means showing up with calm presence. So how do we continue to cultivate that presence moment by moment? As we learned with equanimity, we can train the mind to remain calm and balanced, even when life throws us into chaos. And this kind of steadiness leads us to something just as essential on the path: patience. Number 6, cultivate patience. Patience is one of the most revered virtues in Buddhism. It is not simply about waiting quietly. It's about staying composed, calm, and compassionate, even in the face of difficulties, delays, or provocation. To be patient is to resist the urge to react impulsively. It is to hold space for what is unfolding without agitation or resistance. At its core, patience in Buddhism arises from understanding two fundamental truths: impermanence and karma. Everything in life is constantly changing. Nothing lasts forever. And every action, no matter how small, sets into motion a chain of causes and effects. When we truly grasp this, we begin to see that frustration and anger only fuel our suffering. But with patience, we learn to step back, breathe, and allow things to unfold in their own time. We begin to trust that change is inevitable and that our response to it matters more than our control over it. One of the key benefits of cultivating patience is the development of inner peace and emotional resilience. When we practice patience, we create a steady inner foundation, one that allows us to stay grounded during life's many ups and downs. Instead of being tossed around by anger or anxiety, we respond with clarity and wisdom. Patience gives us the strength to endure discomfort without becoming consumed by it. It helps us respond to challenges with compassion rather than reacting with irritation or aggression. And this makes a profound difference not only in our own well-being, but also in our relationships with others. Just like other Buddhist practices, patience begins with mindfulness. When we become aware of our thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations, we start to notice when impatience arises. Maybe it's the heat rising in our chest, the tapping fingers, the harsh words forming in our mind. With mindfulness, we can observe these signals without judgment and without being swept away. This moment of awareness creates space between stimulus and response, a sacred pause where wisdom can arise. Instead of snapping or shutting down, we can choose a skillful response rooted in understanding. Patience also involves acceptance and non-attachment. Often, we suffer not because things are difficult, but because we resist how they are. We cling to how we want them to be: faster, easier, more convenient. But life rarely obeys our timelines. By releasing our grip on expectations and outcomes, we liberate ourselves from the suffering caused by craving and aversion, and in that space, we find peace. Not because life is perfect, but because we are no longer at war with it. Moreover, cultivating patience invites us to recognize the interconnectedness of all beings. Everyone is carrying something. Everyone has struggles we can't see. When we recognize this, it becomes easier to extend empathy, even to those who test our patience. Instead of taking things personally, we respond with compassion. This understanding softens the hard edges of our frustration and opens the door to deeper harmony in our relationships. One of the most effective ways to develop patience is through meditation. In stillness, we learn to sit with discomfort, to observe the restless mind, and to witness our own longing for things to move faster or feel easier. And over time, this simple practice becomes a powerful training ground for patience in everyday life. As we saw with patience, when we stay present and calm in the face of life's storms, we create space for wisdom and peace. But to truly sustain this inner freedom, there's something deeper we must release: our attachment to ego. Number 7, letting go of ego. Letting go of ego is one of the central and most transformative teachings in Buddhism. At its heart, this practice calls us to release the illusion of a fixed, separate self, a concept that Buddhism sees as the root of much of our suffering. In Buddhist philosophy, the ego isn't something inherently evil. Rather, it's a misunderstanding. The ego believes in a solid me and mine, a self that is permanent, independent, and isolated from others. This illusion leads to attachment, aversion, pride, and fear. It creates a distorted view of reality, where we see ourselves as separate and disconnected. Letting go of the ego begins with recognizing a key insight. Everything is impermanent and interconnected. The Buddha taught that the self is not a static thing. It is a mental construct shaped by thoughts, memories, habits, and conditions. It is empty of inherent, lasting existence. By loosening our grip on this illusion, we begin to free ourselves from the endless cycle of craving and aversion. Without ego clinging to an identity, we experience life more openly, and suffering loses its grip. One of the most beautiful outcomes of this practice is the growth of humility and openness. Ego often pushes us into pride, defensiveness, and a need to be right. It separates us from others, making connection harder. But when we let go of ego, we soften. We stop needing to prove ourselves. We begin to listen more deeply and see more clearly, not just others, but the nature of life itself. Letting go of ego also requires cultivating self-awareness and honest reflection. Through mindfulness, we start to observe how ego shows up in our need to control, to compare, to defend, to be recognized. As we become more aware of these patterns, we can choose to release them. That's when real clarity and insight arise. And as we release ego, something beautiful grows in its place. Compassion. When we're no longer trapped in the story of me, we become more attuned to others. We realize that everyone suffers, that everyone longs for love, understanding, and peace. This recognition helps dissolve the walls that separate us and invites deeper empathy into our lives, even for those who may trigger or challenge us. One of the most powerful tools for loosening the grip of ego is meditation. In the stillness of meditation, we can observe our thoughts without becoming entangled in them. We begin to notice how the ego clings to identity, craves praise, or fears judgment. And with each breath, we learn to step back, to observe, and to let go. This practice doesn't mean we lose our sense of self. It means we stop mistaking the ego for who we truly are. In that letting go, we touch something deeper, a vast inner freedom that is unshaken by praise or blame, gain or loss. Letting go of ego, then, is not about becoming less. It's about becoming more real, more free, and more connected to the world around us. When we let go of ego, we begin to live with greater humility, openness, and compassion. But to truly live wisely, we must also embrace something that many resist: change. Number 8. Embrace change. In Buddhism, embracing change isn't just a wise idea, it's a foundational truth. At the heart of Buddhist philosophy lies the understanding of impermanence, that everything in life, without exception, is in constant flux. Our thoughts, emotions, bodies, relationships, and even the world around us, nothing stays the same forever. Rather than fearing change or trying to resist it, Buddhism invites us to welcome it. Change, after all, is not our enemy. It is the very condition that allows growth, renewal, and ultimately liberation from suffering. To embrace change means to see it clearly and meet it with acceptance. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we cling, when we want things to remain as they are, or when we fight against what is already shifting. By recognizing that everything is subject to change, we begin to let go of our resistance and allow life to unfold with more ease. One of the greatest gifts of embracing change is the development of resilience. Life will bring challenges. This is inevitable. But if we learn to move with change rather than against it, we can bounce back more gracefully from setbacks. We become more flexible, more open, and better able to adapt to whatever life presents. This adaptability leads to a deeper sense of peace and stability, not because everything is perfect, but because we no longer need it to be. Embracing change also means releasing our attachments to fixed ideas, expectations, and outcomes. The Buddha taught that attachment is one of the root causes of suffering. When we insist that things should go a certain way or that we should remain the same, we create tension within ourselves. But by loosening that grip, we discover new possibilities in the present moment. We allow life to surprise us, and in doing so, we find joy in unexpected places. Another essential part of embracing change is mindfulness. When we are fully present, we don't get caught in regrets about the past or fears about the future. We meet life as it is, one moment at a time. Mindfulness helps us stay grounded in what's real right now, even as everything around us shifts. Meditation is a powerful tool for this. It offers a quiet space for reflection and inner clarity. Through regular practice, we learn to watch our thoughts and emotions arise and pass, just like waves on the ocean. We begin to see how even the most intense feelings eventually change and fade. And in this realization, we learn to let go. Ultimately, embracing change is a transformative practice. It frees us from the illusion of permanence and brings us closer to peace. By flowing with life's rhythms rather than resisting them, we live with more grace, acceptance, and even joy. But how do we navigate change wisely? What inner compass can guide us when life feels uncertain? We'll explore the 9th principle, seeking wisdom, and how true understanding lights the way through all of life's transitions. When we embrace change, we begin to flow with life instead of fighting against it. But to navigate that flow wisely, we need something deeper, something that anchors us in truth, wisdom. Number 9. Seek wisdom. In Buddhism, seeking wisdom is not just encouraged, it's essential. It is the foundation upon which freedom from suffering is built. At its core, wisdom is more than just intellectual knowledge. It's a deep, experiential understanding of the nature of reality, the roots of suffering, and the path to liberation. To seek wisdom is to commit ourselves to learning, to questioning, and to honest self-inquiry. The Buddha himself emphasized this lifelong pursuit when he said, "He who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened." In that one sentence, he reminded us that true wisdom begins both within and beyond us, with awareness of the world and awareness of the self. One of the most profound benefits of seeking wisdom in Buddhism is the cultivation of insight. Wisdom allows us to go beyond appearances, to see the deeper truths that lie beneath the surface of our experiences. When we truly understand the causes of suffering and how to release them, we begin to walk the path toward inner peace, clarity, and liberation. But seeking wisdom requires a certain mindset, openness, and curiosity. The Buddha did not ask his followers to accept his words blindly. Instead, he encouraged them to question, explore, and investigate. Buddhism is not about dogma, it's about discovery. With an open heart and an inquisitive mind, we can uncover hidden truths that illuminate both the world and ourselves. This journey toward wisdom also includes studying the teachings of the Buddha and other wise teachers. Within the Buddhist scriptures lies a treasury of timeless knowledge, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, teachings on impermanence, non-self, and the nature of suffering. When we study these teachings sincerely and reflectively, we sharpen our understanding of reality and deepen our insight into life's most fundamental questions. Wisdom is not just found in books or talks, it's discovered in silence too. That's why meditation is one of the most powerful tools for cultivating wisdom. In meditation, we create space for stillness, for inner listening, and for deep seeing. We begin to notice patterns in the mind, to peel back layers of delusion, and to touch the clarity beneath our thoughts. Through regular meditation, we develop the clarity of perception and depth of awareness needed to see things as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. And in this seeing, wisdom arises. Seeking wisdom, then, is a transformative practice. It helps us transcend ignorance, the root of much human suffering, and opens us to freedom. It is a journey of expanding perception, of dissolving illusion, and of stepping into a more spacious, compassionate way of being. By approaching life with curiosity, by reflecting deeply, by studying the Dharma, and by cultivating mindfulness through meditation, we begin to unlock insights that can transform how we live, love, and relate to everything around us. But wisdom alone is not enough. To walk the path fully, we must also practice what we learn and bring our insights into action. We'll explore the 10th principle, living ethically, and how our daily choices shape not only our happiness, but the world we live in. As we seek wisdom through learning, reflection, and mindful awareness, we begin to see life more clearly, beyond illusions, beyond assumptions. But to truly walk the path of wisdom, we must also learn to let go. One of the most essential qualities in the pursuit of wisdom in Buddhism is cultivating an open and inquisitive mind. This means letting go of rigid thinking and allowing ourselves to question deeply our beliefs, our assumptions, even our sense of reality. It is not a path for the passive observer, but for the curious seeker. When we approach life with humility and genuine curiosity, we open the door to deeper truths. Instead of clinging to what we think we know, we become willing to learn, to expand, and to shift. This openness broadens our perspective, deepens our insight, and naturally leads to greater wisdom and understanding. The pursuit of wisdom also involves studying and reflecting on the teachings of the Buddha and other enlightened beings. These teachings, preserved in the vast body of Buddhist scriptures, offer profound insights into impermanence, suffering, karma, and the path to liberation. They are not abstract theories, but living truths meant to be studied, reflected upon, and lived. By engaging with these teachings through study, contemplation, and meditation, we begin to understand not only the nature of reality, but also the nature of the human heart. We gain clarity about the causes of suffering and discover the timeless path that leads out of it. Alongside study, the practice of mindfulness and self-awareness plays a vital role in cultivating wisdom. Mindfulness is the art of being fully present, aware of our thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations as they arise, moment by moment, without judgment. This present moment awareness allows us to observe the patterns of our mind with clarity and objectivity. Through mindfulness, we begin to uncover our habitual reactions, our fears, attachments, and mental loops that quietly shape how we see the world. Recognizing these inner patterns gives us the power to step out of them, and that too is wisdom. One of the most powerful tools for cultivating this kind of deep understanding is meditation. In the stillness of meditation, we find a space for quiet reflection and profound self-inquiry. Here, we can listen inwardly, connect with our intuitive knowing, and touch a deeper clarity that is often drowned out by daily noise. Through regular meditation, we develop mental clarity, emotional stability, and spiritual insight. Over time, this practice becomes not just a technique, but a way of being that supports wise living in every area of our life. Seeking wisdom in Buddhism is not a destination, it's a lifelong journey, a path of continuous discovery, transformation, and awakening. It involves cultivating curiosity, studying the Dharma, practicing mindfulness, and looking deeply within. And as we walk this path, step by step, we begin to live with more clarity, more compassion, and a wisdom that flows naturally into everything we do. But wisdom alone is not enough. To live freely, we must also loosen our grip on the things we crave and cling to. We'll explore the 11th principle, practicing detachment, and how letting go can actually bring us closer to peace. As we walk the path of wisdom, we begin to see how much suffering comes not from the world itself, but from our attachments to it. To live with true freedom, we must now learn the art of letting go. Number 11. Practice detachment. Detachment is a powerful and transformative teaching in Buddhism. It doesn't mean apathy or withdrawal. It means loosening the grip of desire and aversion that often controls our minds. By letting go of attachment to outcomes, to possessions, and to expectations, we free ourselves from the emotional roller coaster that so often defines our lives. When we cultivate a mindset of non-attachment, we learn to remain steady and composed, even when life doesn't go as planned. Challenges, disappointments, and uncertainty still arise, but they no longer shake us to the core. Instead, we begin to experience a deeper sense of calm, resilience, and inner stability. Practicing detachment also means letting go of our identification with the ego, the belief in a fixed, separate self. The Buddha taught that this belief is an illusion. It is the root of much suffering, as it keeps us trapped in self-centered desires, comparisons, and fears. By releasing attachment to the ego and recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings, we begin to transcend the narrow confines of self-interest. We start to feel a sense of unity with others and the world around us. This shift expands our view, opening us to greater compassion, humility, and harmony. A key part of detachment is mindfulness. Through mindful awareness, we become observers of our inner world. We start to notice our cravings, our aversions, and the thoughts that cling tightly to control. Mindfulness allows us to see these patterns with clarity, without judgment, and this clarity is what gives us the power to let go in the present moment. Letting go doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we stop clinging, and that subtle difference changes everything. Meditation is one of the most effective tools for cultivating detachment. In the quiet space of meditation, we sit with our thoughts and emotions, not to suppress them, but to watch them rise and fall like waves. We realize we are not those waves, we are the ocean beneath them. With regular practice, meditation helps us observe without getting caught. It strengthens our insight, steadies our mind, and opens the path to peace. Practicing detachment is not about rejecting life, it's about engaging with life fully, but without fear, craving, or resistance. It is a liberation that allows us to be present, to love freely, and to find joy without conditions. By letting go of our attachments, whether to desires, outcomes, or identities, we discover a profound inner peace, one that does not depend on what happens outside of us. Through mindfulness, awareness, and meditation, we cultivate a heart that is free, a mind that is spacious, and a life that is no longer ruled by suffering. We'll explore the 12th practice, cultivating joy, a deep, abiding joy that blossoms not from what we possess, but from the qualities we nurture within. As we learn to let go of attachment, a beautiful space opens within us, one that invites a deeper, more enduring sense of happiness. And it is in this space that true joy begins to grow. Number 12. Cultivate joy. In Buddhism, cultivating joy is not about chasing fleeting pleasures or depending on external achievements. It's about nurturing an inner wellspring of happiness, one that arises from mindfulness, gratitude, and contentment. This kind of joy is steady, spacious, and rooted in the present moment. When we train the mind to focus on the positive, on what is working, what is beautiful, what is peaceful, we begin to experience happiness that doesn't rely on things going our way. We learn to find joy in simple moments, the warmth of sunlight, a kind word, a deep breath. Mindfulness is one of the key practices for cultivating joy. When we are fully present, we become aware of the richness around us, the vibrant colors, the sounds of life, the small blessings we might otherwise miss. Through mindfulness, we learn to appreciate the now rather than always chasing what's next. Alongside mindfulness, the practice of gratitude deepens our experience of joy. By actively appreciating what we already have, our health, our relationships, our opportunities, we shift our perspective from lack to abundance. Gratitude helps the heart stay open, receptive, and peaceful. Even in difficult times, it reveals what's still good and true. Another important part of cultivating joy is letting go of craving and attachment. The Buddha taught that desire, clinging, and constant dissatisfaction are the root causes of suffering. When we are always wanting something more, something else, or something different, we miss the joy that's already here. But when we let go, when we embrace things as they are, we begin to feel a quiet contentment that no longer depends on getting what we want. That kind of joy is unshakable. One powerful way to deepen this joy is through loving kindness meditation, also known as metta. In this gentle practice, we intentionally send warm, compassionate wishes to ourselves and others. We begin with phrases like, "May I be happy," then extend them to loved ones, strangers, and even those we struggle with. This practice softens the heart and expands our capacity for happiness, not just for ourselves, but for all beings. It breaks down walls of separation and brings a radiant sense of connection and goodwill. When we feel united with others, joy becomes a shared experience, not just a personal one. Cultivating joy, then, is a transformative journey. It allows us to live with greater lightness, peace, and emotional resilience. By focusing the mind on what uplifts, practicing mindfulness and gratitude, and releasing the tight grip of craving, we create the conditions for true joy to blossom from within. Through consistent effort and presence, this joy becomes a companion, walking with us through all of life's ups and downs, reminding us that happiness is not somewhere out there, but already within us. And as joy fills our hearts, it naturally overflows into how we relate to others. The next step on this path is a deeply human one, developing compassion, the wish to ease suffering and care for all beings as we would care for ourselves. As we nurture inner joy, our hearts naturally open wider to others, to their stories, to their pain. And that's when joy evolves into something even more powerful: compassion. Number 13. Develop compassion. Compassion is at the very heart of Buddhist practice. It's not simply a warm feeling or an occasional act of kindness. It's a deep, sustained intention to ease the suffering of others, rooted in the awareness that all life is interconnected. In Buddhism, developing compassion is both a personal and spiritual commitment to live with an open heart. At its core, compassion arises from understanding, from seeing that others, like us, long for happiness and wish to be free from pain. When we truly recognize this shared human experience, compassion flows naturally. It softens our judgments, breaks down barriers, and turns strangers into fellow travelers on the same path. One of the most accessible ways to begin cultivating compassion is through loving kindness meditation, or metta. In this practice, we start by sending gentle wishes of love, well-being, and peace to ourselves. Then, gradually, we extend those wishes outward, to loved ones, to acquaintances, to difficult people, and eventually to all beings. This meditation helps dissolve the illusion of separation. It opens the heart to empathy, reminding us that everyone is carrying something, that everyone is worthy of love. But developing compassion in Buddhism also means going a step further. It means letting go of self-centeredness. The Buddha taught that the belief in a fixed, isolated self is an illusion. It keeps us trapped in cycles of craving, comparison, and suffering. When we begin to loosen our attachment to the ego and embrace our interconnectedness with all beings, we start to care not just about our own happiness, but about the well-being of all life. Through this shift, our sense of self expands. We don't lose ourselves. We find ourselves more fully in the fabric of the world. Another profound method for deepening compassion is the practice of Tonglen meditation. This powerful technique involves visualizing the suffering of others, breathing it in with courage, and then breathing out love, healing, and kindness in return. It may sound intense, but Tonglen strengthens the heart. It teaches us to face pain, not turn away from it, and to respond with compassion rather than fear or avoidance. Over time, this practice nurtures a genuine desire to ease suffering wherever it exists. Developing compassion is not only a spiritual practice, it's a deeply human one. It leads to greater joy, connection, and inner peace. Through metta, Tonglen, mindfulness, and a sincere concern for the welfare of others, we begin to build a heart that is wide, inclusive, and unshakably kind. And as our compassion grows, we contribute to something larger than ourselves, a more understanding, harmonious, and compassionate world. But how can we sustain compassion in a world where everything is always changing, where people, circumstances, even emotions come and go? We'll explore the 14th teaching, embracing impermanence, and how this truth, far from being frightening, can become one of our greatest sources of peace and freedom. As compassion grows within us, so does our understanding that everything and everyone we love is part of a flowing, ever-changing world. That's why the next teaching is essential to living with peace, embracing impermanence. Number 14, embrace impermanence. Impermanence is one of the most foundational and profound truths in Buddhism. Everything changes. Nothing lasts forever. While this might sound unsettling at first, Buddhism teaches that impermanence is not something to fear, but something to embrace. In fact, it is through this acceptance that we find true peace and wisdom. When we learn to accept that all things, our thoughts, emotions, relationships, even our bodies, are in constant motion, we begin to loosen our grip. We stop clinging so tightly to people, possessions, or expectations. And in that letting go, we begin to experience a profound sense of freedom. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we resist the truth of change. We suffer when we expect things to stay the same, when we cling to outcomes, or when we chase permanence in a world that is always evolving. By letting go of this craving for constancy, we learn to move with the flow of life instead of against it. One of the most powerful benefits of embracing impermanence is resilience. When we accept that change is natural, we become more flexible, more graceful. We begin to meet life's ups and downs with steadiness. We bounce back from difficulties more easily, and we don't take joy for granted when it visits us. This practice also involves letting go of fixed ideas, expectations, and identities. When we cling to how things should be or who we think we must remain, we narrow our possibilities. But by staying open to change, we allow growth, healing, and renewal to enter our lives. Mindfulness is the key to embracing impermanence. When we are truly present, we begin to notice how everything is constantly shifting. Our breath, sensations, moods, and even our thoughts. We become aware of how temporary each moment is. And in that awareness, we learn to savor life as it is, not as we wish it to be. A particularly powerful way to practice this is through mindfulness meditation. By focusing on something simple, like the breath, the sensation of walking, or the feeling of the body, we learn to stay rooted in the now. We let go of regrets about the past and anxiety about the future. We return again and again to the unfolding miracle of the present. Over time, this practice deepens our capacity to accept change with grace. We begin to see impermanence not as loss, but as life's rhythm. And in that rhythm, we find beauty, renewal, and liberation. Embracing impermanence in Buddhism is a transformative path. It teaches us to release the heavy grip of attachment and aversion, and instead meet each moment with openness. With mindfulness, presence, and acceptance, we discover that impermanence is not the end of stability, it is the source of it. And when we start to embrace life as it is, ever-changing, moment to moment, something beautiful happens. We begin to notice just how much there is to be grateful for. We'll explore cultivating gratitude, a practice that awakens joy, contentment, and a deep appreciation for the life we're living right now. When we embrace impermanence, we begin to see how fleeting and precious each moment truly is. And with that awareness, something beautiful blossoms in the heart: gratitude. Number 15, cultivate gratitude. Gratitude in Buddhism is far more than a passing feeling. It is a way of seeing, a way of living. It's the quiet recognition that life, even in its imperfections, offers countless moments worthy of appreciation. And when we choose to focus on what's good, what's present, and what's real, we unlock a deep and lasting contentment. To cultivate gratitude is to turn our attention toward the blessings we already have, rather than chasing what we lack. It's about noticing the warmth of sunlight on the skin, the comforting voice of a friend, the simple joy of breathing. These moments, though ordinary, are extraordinary when met with presence. But there's more. Cultivating gratitude also means letting go of comparison, of measuring ourselves against others, or constantly striving for what someone else has. The Buddha taught that comparison breeds envy and dissatisfaction. It steals our peace. Likewise, clinging to past regrets or worrying endlessly about the future only deepens our suffering. Gratitude pulls us back to the present, grounding us in what is. It says, "This is enough. This is beautiful." Mindfulness plays a key role here. When we are truly present, we begin to recognize the richness of life unfolding right before us. The sound of laughter, the taste of a warm meal, the kindness of a stranger. These become treasures when seen through the lens of gratitude. A powerful practice to deepen this mindset is gratitude meditation. In this quiet reflection, we intentionally recall the many blessings in our lives, big and small, and offer sincere thanks for them. This practice rewires the heart to notice goodness more easily and to hold on to it more deeply. With regular practice, gratitude becomes a constant companion. It changes the way we think, speak, and engage with the world. Instead of always reaching outward, we begin to look inward and find joy waiting for us there. In Buddhism, gratitude is considered a transformative practice. It softens the heart, calms the mind, and nurtures spiritual growth. By releasing habits of craving, comparison, and rumination, and instead choosing appreciation, presence, and thankfulness, we invite peace, happiness, and wholeness into every part of our lives. So as we journey through the ever-changing landscape of life, the wisdom of Buddhism offers a steady compass. Whether it's learning to let go, embracing each moment, or opening our hearts to joy and compassion, these teachings guide us toward a life of clarity, peace, and deep fulfillment. May we walk this path with an open heart and a curious mind, for in doing so, we awaken to the profound richness of the present moment and begin to live with greater wisdom, compassion, and joy. If you found meaning in this journey, we invite you to subscribe to Buddhism Seeds, like this video, and share it with someone you care about. Leave us a comment below. What teaching resonated most with you? Together, let's grow a community of seekers devoted to living with peace, purpose, and inner freedom.